Xbox currently has 0 games announced for 2022. 0. Not 1, not 2, not some speculative stuff. They currently have 0 games announced for 2022. That is very baffling. People seem to be very upset across the internet, especially if they bought an Xbox Series X day one. But I want to talk about the disappointment and if this is truly troublesome for the company. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Now, please like this video. I'm sure there's going to be some absolute weirdos with Phil Spencer profile pics down in the comment section raging at me for the rest of the day. Now, this comes off the back of the delay of Starfield and obviously Redfall. I talked about that this morning in a video at 7 a.m. before I had a delicious Red Bull, but now it's time to talk about the grander implications of this. Officially, there is nothing announced by Xbox currently. There is talks about what's coming soon, but as it currently stands, there's nothing coming out. Now, what I'm talking about is that this is a big chart, a fan made. It's very interesting. This is the 23 studios that is currently owned and is enforced by Microsoft. This is everybody making Xbox games. 343 Industries, Arkane, Bethesda Game Studios, Compulsion, everybody, id, Mojang, Obsidian, Rare. Like, I'll admit it, this is a very, very big, very, very impressive cabal of quality. The issue is, what are these people actually working on? Like, some of these companies, we know their specific projects. Like there's a lot of talk that id is working on a new Doom game, which is nice. Eventually, we're going to get Elder Scrolls 6. Like, this stuff is great, but as it currently stands, we don't really have that much detail. We don't have that much art. We don't have that much gameplay. We have a lot of ideas on paper. Now, I want to make it incredibly clear. I'm not just trying to beat up on freaking this. I'm not trying to just say that Microsoft sucks. I'm just saying that as it currently stands, I feel like they are now in a very, very bad spot. And part of what makes me worry about this is that I think it is going to hurt them in the long run, and I do think that it's going to make Sony lazy. Before we even talk about any of the other implications and start to look at some ideas and some angry tweets, I just want to say part of my concern about this is that the console universe, the console wars, the gaming industry, in my opinion, it's a lot better when people are competitive. When Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo are afraid of each other, that's really when they're trying the hardest, when they're clashing, when they're pushing each other around, when they're competing for good release dates and the best DLC and the biggest trailers and stuff. That's when it's the most fun. As it currently stands, Sony is by far in first place. I just mean that from a console sales standpoint. Their software is also selling incredibly well. I looked at some reports a couple days ago in a video talking about the fact that they've sold 20 million PlayStation 5s already, 19.3 million PlayStation 5s. They've sold 70 million copies of software in just the last 3 months. Sony is booming. But one thing we've learned from the PlayStation team is that when they are not afraid, they get lazy. This is not, it's undoubtable. PlayStation likes to sit on their laurels when they think they can get away with it. Currently, we know that we're about to get Final Fantasy 16. There's talks of God of War Ragnarok possibly coming out in November. But as it currently stands, Xbox is just kind of sitting there with a lot of buns in the oven. But what are we going to do about this? Well, this is where people are sort of trying to guess the next move of Xbox. Like right here, it's a very safe prediction that Xbox is going to start to throw around a freaking ton of money to secure some big third-party games to simultaneously launch Game Pass day and date, now that their first-party software lineup for the gear has all but evaporated. You see, one of the biggest superpowers of Microsoft is that they're Batman. No, I don't mean that they fight crime or that they're very, very good at karate chopping people in the darkness. I mean that they have trillions of dollars. They can buy success in a way that normies can't. Even Sony has straight up said that they just don't have enough liquid capital to have a lucrative copycat to Game Pass. But right here, they're saying maybe we can figure this out by just straight up paying for stuff to go into Game Pass. Now, speaking of Game Pass, these are numbers that came out. The Game Pass numbers are a little bit out of date, but as of 2022 January, so 4 months ago, Microsoft said that 25 million people are currently subscribed to Game Pass. Now that's very impressive compared to something like Nintendo Switch Online has 32 million, PlayStation Plus has 47.4 million. But here's the thought about this, is that what happens if Game Pass starts bleeding people? What if it starts bleeding subscribers? And the reason I'm thinking that is because as it currently stands, Game Pass is a promise. It's saying, hey, be subscribed for that next cool thing. A lot of people I know buy the year long of Game Pass Ultimate. They pay for the entire thing. What is it? $120 a year? I'm sure I'll put the correct price here on the screen, but $120 a year for games that might come out. If I saw the trailer for Starfield and a big release date that straight up said 11/11/22, I would completely believe it. That is exactly 11 years after the original release of Skyrim. I mean, every bit of the talk, the leaks, every rumor came out that said, hey, Microsoft is set to launch this spaceship amazingness of Starfield, and yet now it's just gone. Is this going to hurt them? I think from a brand recognition standpoint, yes. But more than that, I do think it's going to shock and awe a lot of their most dedicated fan base. In fact, I've even been looking at stuff like this. This is Mr. Matty's place. Mr. Matty does a lot of Bethesda-style content. That's how he originally blew up. He does a very good Xbox podcast and stuff. Well, he tweeted this out because of the news. I am so sad. I don't get this energy from Xbox in a sense. Why didn't Halo see this kind of delay? I have so many thoughts. Video soon. Well, Matty, I'm definitely going to be watching that video, but I agree with this interesting sentiment. They were willing to delay so many other projects. It's not like Microsoft is afraid of financial quarters and stuff, but are they going to be afraid in the future? What happens if Xbox starts to sell bad? What if the consoles start just really going off a cliff? And more importantly, I have always said that right now, Microsoft is just obsessed with pumping up Game Pass numbers. As long as you have tens of millions of people paying $10 a month, that'll pay all your game development forever. Like straight up, that is the infinite money pool. But my thought is, what happens when people start unsubscribing? Now, part of this comes down to the fact that recently, Xbox has been passing the sales of the PlayStation 5. This is completely real. This came out 3 weeks ago on April 25th. PlayStation 5 beaten by Xbox Series X and S and Nintendo Switch in March. Now, the reason this is interesting to me is because it shows the fact that Xbox was gaining momentum. I think a lot of people were really getting on board of the hype train to talk about, as we mentioned earlier, these 23 studios. All of these people are working on games that do look great. I'm excited for the next Gears of War. I thought that obviously Tango's newest game, which was Ghostwire, was pretty interesting. Undead Labs is working on, what is it called? Oh god, State of Decay 3. Like, a lot of these games certainly have a lot of potential, even though they're all just CG trailers as they currently exist. But still, I think it's about buying into the hype. When you buy a platform, when you buy a console, it's about the promise. It's about the idea of what am I going to get to play next. It's about making sure that those exclusives are rewarding to you. And when it comes to Microsoft, it's about that Game Pass exclusive. It's about whether I play it on my PC or on my console, is it going to be epic? Is it going to feel like it's worth that price tag? And in a lot of cases, I feel like people are feeling very, very, very left out in the cold. Now, here's something interesting I saw. People have been just saying this quite a bit. I've actually seen several people, this is obviously Jez Corden, the Xbox writer, said Microsoft should have delayed Halo for 6 months. Halo Infinite getting a big pushback would allow the game to breathe. It would take more time for Halo to bake, and it would get the content playing ready. Starfield would have been easier to swallow. That said, hindsight is 2020. It's bizarre that we are at a point where we're trying to just fill the gaps of Microsoft for them. We're trying to figure out what the grand plan is. Now, part of my own personal confusion in this is just the fact that it felt like Starfield was very close to completion. Now, of course, there is talks that Forza Horizon or whatever next Forza game is coming out this year, but honestly, I feel like some of the games that come to Game Pass, I just don't care about. Like, stuff like that. Okay, it's a really great photorealistic racing game. 1 billion people are going to download it. They're going to brag about the downloads, and good for you guys. I've seen a lot of people actually get mad at me for not talking more about Forza. My thought is just like, okay, is that all there's going to be? Is it just going to be like flight simulator updates, a new season pass for Halo Infinite, but no big, flashy, great new games? I think that we're about to see a big flash flood of people leaving Game Pass. And honestly, I cannot blame them. But what do you guys think? Is this really that big of a deal? Is this just a big old pile of nothing? I mean, eventually, Xbox is going to be great. I'm not going to pretend that the console is completely dead. I'm not going to act like this is just some instantaneous, like, freaking tragedy. But it's interesting seeing so many people just shocked. People are saying, I'm glad it's delayed, because I'm seeing so many people talk about the fact that they're glad that it's being delayed because it's going to up the quality. But dang, PlayStation is now just going to dominate 2022 simply because nobody else is really stepping up other than Nintendo. But I love you guys very much. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. God, I wish I could play Starfield right now. Seriously, if I had a time machine, I would just go play Starfield. I do think I'm going to unsubscribe from Game Pass, though. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm unsubscribing from Game Pass. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.